This episode of Distraction is sponsored by Landmark College, the college of choice for students who learn differently. Visit lcdistraction.org to learn how Landmark College supports students with ADHD and other learning differences. Find your place at Landmark College. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell with a mini episode of Distraction. Our stalwart, ever hardworking producer, Sarah Gurton, asked me to come up with my top 3 tips on managing your child's ADHD. Well, I couldn't do that. I had to make it 4. But so here you are, my top 3 tips, morphed into my top 4 tips. The number 1 tip, the best way to treat ADHD is to understand it. So it makes just the world of difference if you can really read up on it, understand it. Now, you don't have to go get a PhD in psychology at all. And, honestly, if you read my book, Delivered from Distraction, that would take care of it. I'm suggesting my books because I know what's in them. There are other books. Anything by Russ Barkley is good. He can be a little bit depressing to read because he highlights the risks and the negative outcomes, but it's good to know about those. But understanding this condition is so empowering. Once you understand it, the rest just follows logically. So my number 2 of my top 3 tips turned into 4 is to have a team. You really can't do it alone. Even if you're a single parent, you want to have a team, and the team typically includes some other adult, a friend, an uncle, somebody who you can turn to and help. Doing it alone is really, really not a good idea. And then, of course, have a professional, have a psychiatrist, psychologist, pediatrician, social worker, someone from the mental health field who knows what they're doing and takes a strength-based approach. You need that person not only for knowledge, but for input of hope. When you need an injection of hope, you want to have that person on speed dial. Believe me, on speed dial. Having a team is so critical. Those of you listening to me know one of my watch aphorisms is never worry alone. Well, that's certainly the case when you're raising a child. You don't want to be worrying alone. So have a team, and I've neglected to mention also on that team should be some representative of the school, teacher, administrator, janitor, someone who knows your child and knows the school. So you have a friend at school, which is really important. Number 3 on my top 3 tips, which turned into 4, is maintain that wonderful funny bone. Keep that sense of humor. It is critical, because you'll be crying if you can't be laughing. The things that happen, a friend told me over the weekend in high school, a kid took a piece of sodium, which when it interacts with water explodes, and he dropped it down the toilet in the men's room in his high school in Texas, and he ran out the door, and within seconds there was this massive explosion as the little chip of sodium interacted with the water in the septic tank, and the entire contents of the septic tank exploded up through the toilets all over the school. Well, you can imagine what a disaster that was, and the perpetrator of the crime was not greeted with laughter, but it sure did make me laugh, and I know that he had ADD. This is the kind of thing that does happen. The further it fades into posterity, the more likely you can laugh. And if you can laugh in the present moment, that's also a helpful skill to have. And number 4 in my top 3 tips that turned into 4 is adjust your expectations. You really have to get out of the habit of wishing you had the child you wish you had, and instead love and work with the child you in fact do have. Which means your child will forget things, will need to be told multiple times to do things, will go upstairs to get dressed and you come up 10 minutes later and he's lying naked on the floor with a sock over his head pretending it's a rocket ship. That will happen. You must adjust your expectations and not flip your lid because the little boy or little girl is not doing what people who don't have this condition would do. Remind yourself. Now, that is not to say you excuse. You've got to keep your kids on the road, So it's not to excuse, but to shepherd. Shepherd them along. They need more guidance than the average child. You can't say, well, you're in 8th grade now, you should be able to fill in the blank. I'm 70 years old, and I need coaches and assistants and shepherds and reminders. It ain't going to happen that I'm going to get old enough. Okay, those are my top 3 tips turned into 4. Understand the condition. Learn about it so you can make up your own list. Use a team approach. Don't go it alone. Keep your sense of humor and adjust your expectations. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell with a mini episode of Distraction. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. Our recording engineer and editor is the experienced, wise, Yoda-esque Pat Keogh. And our producer is the nubile, brilliant, extraordinarily creative Sarah Gurton.